Okay, good afternoon everybody and welcome to the second Viinitie Wine Talk of the day. The crowd is getting bigger here in front as the topic is a very interesting one. We are a wine importing company, but the topic today is no wine today. Why we're doing this discussion is because I think we all have to admit the reality. The wine consumption in the world is decreasing. In 2022, there was 1% decrease from the previous year, 21. But of course, we all see it also in our everyday life. Whether we work in restaurants, whether we work maybe in alcohol, whether we are a wine producer, we all know about dry January. So I think it's a relevant topic to discuss. Also in terms of wine and health, a topic that we often don't want to think about so much, but which is still something that we should, as consumers, as wine lovers, as wine professionals, to also discuss. So this is why I have a great panel here today. Starting from my left, we have Mr. Fred Loimer from Weingut Loimer in Kamptal from Austria. And he's also making one non-alcoholic beverage that we carry in our portfolio, which is the Traubensaft 2023, on your second glass from the left. Then I have a group sommelier from Financier Group, Aleksi Mehtonen. He's especially working at Restaurant Savoy, but also taking care of the whole Financier Group. And of course here talking about the relevance of these kind of beverages in the fine wine and fine dining restaurant world. Then we have another amazing sommelier and a restaurateur from Jyväskylä, from Pöllövaari, Ulla Häkkinen, and she will also hopefully be commenting on how the consumption of these kind of beverages, especially in outside of Helsinki, we're often very Helsinki centralized, so it's important to have somebody also from a different city, so Jyväskylä. And then we of course have Peter Van Nahmen, a very famous Van Nahmen multi-generational family business based in Germany. They started with apple juices, but these days they have a huge range of different non-alcoholic beverages, and with from Peter we have both the sparkling juicy tea on the selection today and a fruit secco from different fruits. So without further ado, welcome everybody and thank you for joining this. I know there might be some challenging topics here as well, but let's warm up a bit. It's January. Are you taking part of Dry January, or have you ever taken part of Dry January? Nobody?
A little.
Fred, can you take the microphone? How, after Christmas celebrations, time with the family, maybe a bit more time in your hands than normally, you sit down perhaps at the Christmas table, you eat well, you drink well. When the year changes, do you really feel like you need to reboot everything?
This year the first time. Normally they were fasting someone somewhere beginning of the fasting time. But this year I decided to start that after Christmas and did it over the New Year's Eve, and it was fantastic. And that was my, let's say, Dry January, 14 days, so not really a full month, to be honest. But it was great. It was a great time, and I felt really good to start the new year.
And did you really, straight away within those 2 weeks, did you see a difference in how you slept or how you felt? Or did you find that meals were a bit boring because there was no wine on the table? Or
though that's really a fasting in a monastery, so you get tea and water. And in that time you don't sleep so well, that's the funny thing. You think normally you should sleep really deep, but you're not, because your body has nothing to do. Might be a reason, I have no idea. But in total, because you sleep a little bit on days, and in total you sleep for sure a little bit more. And it's interesting, after 5-6 days of nothing to eat, you have even more energy. So you see what the body needs on energy to get all rid of the food and the things we eat and drink.
Mm-hmm. Aleksi, you've never taken part of Dry January?
No.
Do you see a lot of your customers taking part of that?
Too many, I would say.
And but they still come and eat at Savoy?
Yes.
Because I did an experience a couple of years ago, 1 month, I think it was like a month of November, which is the most horrible month in Finland, as we all know. And I did go out to restaurants, and I felt it was very boring not to be able to drink wine. Like the food didn't taste as good as it tastes normally. In a restaurant like Savoy, which is like the really established fine dining environment, what do you do when people say that they're not drinking?
Well, that's why we are here today.
So you offer them something different. Okay. And Ulla, is it the same for you? Do you see a lot of people prohibiting alcoholic drinks for themselves?
Well, not so much. Not. I think our customers, maybe, so I'm working in a fine dining restaurants, Bellovari, but I'm also taking care of 2 other restaurants, beverage selection, which are more casual restaurants. Every year we think that the January is going to be very dry, but the consumption is every year almost the same. I think you can see the change during December, that more and more customers would like to enjoy more and more non-alcoholic drinks, especially with the Christmas lunches. And then we have to have a very good options to offer them, that we will get enough profit, of course.
Sure.
Yeah.
And Peter, is your January wet? Because you normally don't produce alcohol?
It could be always wet or dry. No, but I used to work for 9 years for a wine importer in Germany, so I'm very wine affine as well. And I like drinking wines very much, to be honest, because it's fine dine and it's these nice aromas around there, so I really like that. But I'm not all year around drinking only juices. But up and then, to be honest, it's not bad to have periods in the year. It's not January, and it could be smaller periods as well, where it's not bad to have to not drink any alcohol in a certain way. So in a certain way, I enjoy that as well. I did for my life, not regularly, but 5 or 6 times the same, which Fred did as well. And it's really incredible to see how your body reacts after 3, 4, 5 days, that you get more energy and you don't need to eat anything because there is enough to eat.
Is it that you are in ketosis?
Yeah, keto is like your body is using the fats instead of the carbs.
Yeah, that's the idea.
Yeah. So, well, but overall, if we think about the world, since 2018, there's been various reasons why the alcohol consumption has decreased. First, there was a big decline in Chinese consumption, and we all know that if Chinese decide to do something, they do it with big volumes. Then, of course, we had the shutdowns of COVID, which caused, of course, decrease in the on-trade. Also, lack of tourism really decreased the consumption. Then there was the war in Ukraine, which is still obviously ongoing, and after that, the energy crisis, and then all the increased costs of dry goods production. All of these have had the impact on the decreased consumption. However, I feel that more and more we are also considering the aspect of wine and health, or alcoholic beverages and health. If we start with you, Fred, you produce wine. Wine is your living. Apart from the 2 weeks detox or the monastery retreat that you just did, do you consider your alcoholic consumption in a daily life, especially because you work with a product that you want to sell to people and to them to eat it and drink it and enjoy life? How do you approach wine and health?
That might have something to do more with age, with experience, maybe. When you're young, maybe you can drink a little bit more as when you get older, and you take the wine. Today I take the wine really for food pairing, of course, a few glasses, of course, for enjoyment, for sure, and but it's today it's more thinking about the consumption at all, and there's always a next day, so you have to be careful, and you have to work at the end. But what we are doing, and what you see in the wine world, is on one hand the tries of non-alcoholic wine. I'm not too sure if that is my way. That's why it's more Traubensaft. But what's coming at the moment, and we do that since years, since we changed to biodynamic, everything is about drinkability, and then, of course, alcohol get in the focus and get less into the wine. So what we are doing today is to try to get as much as taste as possible, but with low alcohol. But alcohol is carrying, of course, aromatics and taste, or sugar is carrying it. So you need one of these two things to have a tasty product at the end.
Sure. Aleksi, as a father of a young daughter, have you started to think more about your own consumption?
I think that she is a natural restrict that gives no mercy. So the thought about the next morning is so present that yes, definitely.
And do you see that your excitement in life has somehow disappeared, or other things have come to life apart from just staying out late and drinking great wines with friends?
Surely, even better things.
Yeah.
Yes. And the sleep, quality of sleep and mental things are, of course, the alcohol is affecting everything. So you can actually realize different positive things in your life when you have a short sober period.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you know, often people say that wine is actually, it could be the healthiest alcoholic beverage, because we have a culture of moderate consumption when it comes to wine. Spirits, especially back in the day in Finland, I think spirits were drank in larger volumes for a different reason than the enjoyment. But we are still a beer drinking country. 50% of our alcohol consumption is beer. Ulla, how do you see it in Jyväskylä? Do you see a huge difference between the people who drink wine compared to people who drink beer and spirits? And do they drink it differently? Do you see this moderation more in wine than the other categories?
I think that the wine drinkers, they are drinking beer during their spare time, and vice versa. I think the consumers who are enjoying wine and the consumers who are enjoying beer, they are a little bit different kind of style. So, can you repeat the question?
So just
the main thing.
Yeah, so I was just thinking, in Jyväskylä especially, do you see a lot of difference? Do people consume it differently depending on what they consume? Do you feel like wine is the most moderately consumed beverage out of wine, beer, and spirits?
I think so. Yes. Yes. Definitely.
And of course, people say that because of the moderation, there's a lot of benefits as well, because you're a bit calmer. You might have cardiovascular benefits as well because of that, especially after a certain age. So it has been proven that people who drink in moderation are a bit more stable. But of course, it's a difficult thing to publish any health benefits from alcoholic consumption. Peter, do you often see people switching between an alcoholic drink or a wine and one of your non-alcoholic beverages, within the same setting, yourself maybe?
Myself do that as well. For example, when you have a nice evening, and said today already to the one or the other, I was once invited to an evening in Vienna. Private, was very nice, and there were a lot of different dishes. We had a lot of very great Austrian wines as well. But then we had I don't know the English word, Zanderfilet, a fish filet in there, and they served the rhubarb nectar from us, and it was just like everybody, hopefully not because I was sitting there, but everybody said, wow, this is a very nice combination. So if you see this only under combination circumstances, there must not necessarily be wine in there. But just one point concerning healthiness, drinking alcohol, it's of course the same with drinking juices, for example, as well. There's a big discussion about sugar in juices. And my point is always, of course, we need the sugar. To be honest, we let our fruits hang or apples or pears, I don't know, whatever, as long as possible, because then as much as possible fruit sugar there is in there, but as well as much aroma is in there as well. And then it's always, I always say, okay, then if you have a problem with sugar, which I can understand, then just drink a little bit less. I mean, this is a possibility with wines, of course, as well. Just with juices, the same with juices as well. Just zip to it and take it as an enjoyment to the dish. And just not, just a little bit. Exactly.
Yeah, for instance, our tasting menu, you can choose a wine flight, or you can choose a wine flight with some mixed beverages. So half of the beverages are non-alcoholic and half of the with alcohol. And of course, the price track is higher than if you take the half wine flight.
Okay.
So, but it's not so popular, but it's a one option.
Yeah.
Yeah, to offer.
And that's a very good idea. I will tell German sommeliers as well that this is really a good idea, especially because then at the end of the evening you enjoy the meal then much more as well. I had a lot of dinners, to be honest, where I had the wine tasting then as well, and at the end of the wine tasting to it you have, I don't know, 6-7 different dishes, and you have 6 or 7 glasses of 0.1 liter, and you don't enjoy the meal very much as well. So it's
remember
exactly
the complex.
Yeah. Well, speaking of like using the wines in or different beverages in restaurants, obviously, you know, Aleksi, you already mentioned that now that people come and eat in Savoy in January, this is what you can offer because it's profitable to make give them an offer of something else than just water. How have you used it in Savoy, and how are people taking it? Are they accepting it?
Well, this tasting was the most exciting of all that you provide today, because that's the fastest growing team in our restaurant. Comparing to year 2022, our non-alcoholic pairings were 25% more. So we also serve this sober option for wine menu, so you get specially prepared non-alcoholic beverage with each course. So most of these products are in our menu, and we either serve it as it is or then enhance it in some way.
Fred, how would you feel if Aleksi enhanced one of your wines that you created? Instead of like enhancing maybe a non-alcoholic beverage, making it a bit better for them. What if sommeliers
enhancing it?
Like what if sommeliers would start to make some edits to your actual wines? Because here I think we agree that you can use one of the non-alcoholic things as a base, maybe add a bit of tanning or maybe add a bit of spice there. What if they did that the same to wine? How would you feel?
I had that recently. It was the Glücklich Rosé, and that's something I had no idea what they added. And at the end, we didn't drink it. But yes, it's a possibility. Why not? And if you can lower down the alcohol in your glass and maybe raise up the taste, why not? I wouldn't like to see it on our best wines, of course, but the entry levels for sure. Yeah. Why not? I'm quite relaxed in that. I don't drink it.
Okay. I was just teasing you. But I think it's an important thing because I think this category actually allows you as a sommelier to be a bit more innovative and experimental with the kitchen as well. You know, you might be able to smoke something or add a smoke element into something just to make it a bit more food friendly as well. Have you been doing these kind of things at Pöllevaari and Savoy, that you've actually played with different styles? Can you give some examples?
Yes, we started to offer non-alcoholic cuvée juices 2011, and of course after that year we have been continuing to develop all different kind of things. So with organically produced juices, we are combining non-alcoholic distillates. So there's nowadays plenty of different distillates to create a very beverages with lots of personality. We are combining cold brew coffee with some cold brew tea as well, different kind of teas. You can play with sencha tea, you can play with l'absent chouchon tea, as Aleksi is doing with this non-alcoholic red wine. We are using flavored ice cubes. We are making different kind of purees from with the help of the kitchen. So you name it, there are very various things you can do with the non-alcoholic beverages. And of course we are also flavoring the non-alcoholic Riesling, for instance, with jasmine tea, which is a very, very good combination with the spring asparagus course, for instance.
And do you have any comments, like the whole panel, do you have any comments depending on like different production methods? So here we have 3 de-alcoholized wines. So we have the Straub Blanc Pur, the first class, then the Colonel Riesling and the Casa Emai Sangiovese. Those are also de-alcoholized. But then Loimer's Traubensaft, it's never had alcohol in it, it's grape juice. And then of course Peter's, one of the drinks is tea-based drink, and the other one is a fruit juice. So how do you see some benefits and do you have some doubts about certain production methods when you're thinking about the whole category? What are your feelings?
To be honest, the alcoholization of wine is, I think, quite a complex thing, and you have to think about, when you do that, about the grapes itself. I think it doesn't work when you just take a wine and take the alcohol out. So I never did it, but in my feeling, you have to harvest quite early to have not so much alcohol in. That's maybe the opposite to fruit juice, because then you don't have such a technical impact to the product itself. And then you need, of course, this, what you have also by wine, this balance between sweetness and acidity. Very similar to wine. For me, and when I taste these products here, tea is for sure a very good possibility to lower the sugar and to raise up the taste. Maybe that could be a nice idea for grape juice too. I have no idea. We started with grape juice because of a restaurant in London, Häkkinen. They asked because they have a lot of clients. They are not drinking alcohol, and so the idea was from the beginning on low sugar, high acidity, and CO2 to give freshness to the product. We only do 2.5% of the production. But what's interesting, we do a green juice, so Verjus, and this Traubensaft, and both are sold out before harvest. So it's quite interesting. It's limited because we're working only with fungi-resistant varieties, which don't have to be sprayed so often, because you don't have this alcoholic fermentation, which might clean a little bit the product. So we're working biodynamic anyway, but even there, I think it's important to have not so much chemicals outside in the vineyards, to have a clean product than in the bottle.
Aleksi, do you have any comments on different production methods? And when somebody comes, a wine rep comes to you and shows you these beverages, do you have an opinion already?
Only the quality matters for me. It has to be the best.
Okay. So you are as open to de-alcoholized than other options?
Yes.
Yeah. Same for you, Ulla? Yeah. And Peter, you are making basically fruit juices or teas that are flavored. Is this the only option for you, or have you ever thought about, because I know that you make, for example, alcoholic cider. Have you ever thought about making cider out of some of these beverages and then decreasing the alcohol somehow, or?
Well, to be honest, no, we did not. We did, I don't know, 20 years ago, we started to cider as well, 2% and 4% out of these old orchards which we have. They are sweeter than cider from Normandy, for example, because we there as well do late harvested things in there. But our way basically is coming from fruit juices. So my great-grandfather in 1917 started to produce juices, and then we did a lot of different juices. In 2007, out of our project together with the German environmental organization, we had a lot of different old varieties. So we started with single varietal fruit juices. So we have 8 or 9 different apple juices, for example. And out of this fundus heraus, we basically started then, I think, to 14 or 15, because especially the gastronomy was asking. At that time, there was different times than today. There were not so innovative people like you producing their own drinks there as well. So a lot of times or other way around, when we started to produce this, the feedback from sommeliers were that they said, okay, this is very nice, because at that time, 10 years ago, people who were not drinking alcohol because of driving or whatever reason as well, gastronomy had the problem as well that they couldn't earn money with this, because the only thing you could ask is, would you like your water with bubbles or without bubbles? But that was it, and you could not gain the same money as with wines, which is okay. I mean, it was the problem there, basically. So we started with our fruit secos. We have one of those here as well. And people in gastronomy, and they are much more now as well, they were very happy that they were not drinking alcohol. The sommelier were caring as well, because usually 10 years ago, 15 years ago, you said you are driving, you don't drink alcohol. They said, okay, water, and then they care about the people who drink alcohol, because they've traveled around the world as a sommelier to find this spot and this spot. And now, if they have the possibility to do this on their own or with non-alcoholic drinks, I think it's much about caring as well. People who don't drink alcohol, they go out of gastronomy and they say, okay, was not only for the people who are drinking alcohol, but for me as well. It was a great evening because they cared about me. And to be a little part of that is nice as well. Of course, it's the best to do a combination with good ground bases for each dish. It's very intense and personal, of course, as well. Just to end this, sorry for telling so much. It was then after the fruit seco with 100% fruit. The second thing was to reduce, to make less fruit sugar in there, and that's happening by, for example, putting it together with tea. The idea started with us 4 years ago, 5 years ago. I was traveling with my wife in the Netherlands. We were in Zwolle at Deli Breie. It's a very nice restaurant. So I was driving, and I had in total, I think, 8 or 10 different tea varieties. That was really amazing. It was really very nice, hot, cold brew. I don't know, all the different ones. But as somebody who has been growing up like a child with the fruit juices, like my grandfather already poured fruit juice in me, I said tea, very nice, but a little bit of fruitiness in there could be very nice as well. And then we started to do a lot of experiments with tea sommeliers around to do it first warm brewed, but if you do it warm brewed, then you a lot of times have such bitter parts as well. It's, everybody from us knows that if you brew your tea, you should brew it for 3.5 minutes. You brew it for 5 minutes or 4 minutes, and you have these bitter parts in there. And this is not happening if you brew it cold. So we tried that as well, and this is a very nice method to do very nice products, and everybody can do it, of course, up and then a little bit more convenient, ready produced, but of course best if you produce it yourself.
But I guess, I mean, your experimentations have been quite successful because your beverages are now used in many Michelin-star restaurants around the world. You've been working with food and wine recommendation by a dear friend, Romana Eschensberger, Master of Wine as well. So you've really showed the world that these are world-class beverages also at the dining table. Ulla and Aleksi, you mentioned first that the quality is what really matters. So do these beverages actually need to have a similar story than the wine?
Of course, it's a bonus if you have a nice story about the methods that you have prepared the drink and origin. Basically, that's the most important. And if it's local, then it's a huge plus. But But anyways, it's not that different to wine.
What do you see the biggest challenges in this category? I feel as a wine industry professional, I honestly feel that we are much behind beer industry, for example. I think there's a lot of very tasty non-alcoholic beers, even if I'm not a great drinker of beer. How do you feel? What are the biggest challenges if we're thinking about de-alcoholized wines or products that aren't wine, but we're trying to kind of compare to wine? How do you feel?
Well, on the non-alcoholic white wine scene, it's not huge leap, but I think in the red we are still hugely behind. That we have this Traubensaft and other nicely balanced whites, but in the red wine, because there's no alcohol, you need sugar to keep the body, and that's not an option.
Yeah, but then you have to mix it yourself.
Yes.
Yeah. And if you're thinking about the non-alcoholic flight with a tasting menu, for instance, of course you can serve different kind of beverages in there. If you have lots of different courses, you can pour some non-alcoholic beer, you can pour some non-alcoholic wine, and then some fruit juice, and you can play. So you have to have the story behind the drinks, but of course you have to, in my opinion, you have to have the variation that the customer will be surprised and be happy to pay the amount you ask for that.
Yep.
Audience comment onto that. I think Alex actually made it very nicely the topic in that sense, like with an international conversations as well. Often having a non-alcoholic wine, for example, in the case of driver or being in a great so one of the reasons is it seems to be the issue that when you're in a restaurant and you only have a glass, it's supposed to be red. Not only in Finland, but in many other places as well. And I think that's exactly the challenge. Fred mentioned the point that often you have to maybe a bit earlier, but the physiological issue is that the aromas are coming there only after everything else is already there. So I think this red wine, non-alcoholic red wine, finding a solution for that, I think would be something which the industry needs to figure out. And I think there is some research even done for the issue. People consider it a challenge, but they prefer to have some other beverage because the rates are not there for this simple glass.
And the beer scene is hugely
better.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you think that we, as wine producers or wine lovers, are we not taking this seriously enough? Why isn't there more innovation? Why aren't we making better products?
I think the demand has risen. It hasn't been always there, so you need to react when the demand comes, and it's never too late to start developing all of this stuff.
Fred?
I have too less knowledge how the product is really done, but I think there's quite a high impact of energy to get rid of the alcohol, and so I'm not quite sure if this is really the right way. Maybe it could be better to take a grape juice, work with tea to lower the sugar, and get a similar result at the end. Because when you look to the wines, and that's why for me a Mosel style Riesling would be maybe the best in de-alcoholization, because you are used to the sweetness and to that sweet sourness, let's say. And I had a Riesling recently in Canada, and this was really close to that. So that could work, but a dry Gruner, I'm not quite sure, and red is not working for me. So it's you have the tannins, and these 4 or 5 grams, which you have in a lot of very mainstream reds, or maybe 6 or 7, is too less, I guess, for a product like that, because you need the sugar for the flavors. Yes. That's the problem.
Sure.
I agree totally, and of course, non-alcoholic beverages or wines have been produced for the last 20-25 years already. So they have tested. They test more now than they did before because the demand is bigger. But it's really, I agree to all of you as well, is if the category itself is not beer or wine, but in the category is drinking non-alcoholic, then we have a wide area of things which we can do. There are a lot of, thank God, a lot of things happening right now all around the world, like either personally doing it or producers who are doing this as well. And I think it's a little bit like, I like all different kinds of styles of eating. I like vegan eating as well, but some other things as well. But if you have vegan eating, it's like there are so great things to eat vegan. They don't, maybe it's a little bit strange to say this, but they don't need to look like a sausage. I mean, they don't need to try to be something non-vegan. So just take the whole category and just like you do that as well, and experiment and do new things around there as well. It must not be de-alcoholized or alcoholized wine, I think, because there are so many possibilities.
Let's talk about price. As a wine buyer, I'm of course contacted every day by wine producers, but more and more I'm also contacted by de-alcoholized wine producers who are selling their wines for the same price as single vineyard Grüne Veltliners from Kamtal. Is this the way to go forward? Like, and you have like de-alcoholized wines that are super high end and in their pricing. Do you feel like that could be the solution for the lower end beverages as well to be taken more seriously when there's different pricing categories? Or do you see it that this is just a rip-off?
If there's a good price-quality ratio, then why not?
But how do you feel it in your restaurant as well then, when you're charging for the non-alcoholic beverage packaging? Of course, the price must be a bit lower than for the wine. Do you ever see people commenting on the pricing you have?
And we changed our non-alcoholic Riesling last fall. The price tag was about 15 euros more per bottle than it used to be. And it's now 59 euros per bottle. And of course you can count what it is by the glass, but no one has said anything.
And I've heard
they are happy to pay that, and happy to pay for good non-alcoholic beer as well.
I've heard this comment from many places that people are actually really ready to pay. They are so happy to have an option in the restaurant.
And then if they don't get the non-alcoholic red wine, then they won't have anything other than water. So that's why we would be very happy if we could offer a good non-alcoholic red wine. Even if we are offering a cuvée which is made from red currant, and then there is some cold brew tea and some other berries and some non-alcoholic distillates to give some spiciness. But then, well, I don't want to take the juice. It's too sweet.
Did you have a comment on the pricing?
Yeah, I think that's the only place for non-alcoholic wine high price, because I've seen recently two products very low in price, lower as the regular wines entry levels. And when you know it's, I think, €1.50 or €2, something like that, just to get the alcohol out, then you know what's in the bottle then, nothing. So because the technology is expensive, because it needs a lot of energy, so it's not an easy thing to do, it must be the best you can get out of it. And therefore you need good grapes, you need the knowledge, you need a lot of things which then is a better quality, and that's the only way I think for wine. Otherwise you can put water in your grape juice and then you also lower the sugar.
Mm-hmm. So Fred, if you had the knowledge or if you had a consultant to work with, would you consider producing something, especially now that you hear here that we are all looking forward to having amazing non-alcoholic red wine?
As you know, I did the wine school, and in the wine school you learn about technology, and of course I'm interested in technologies and interested also in that. But I would say at the moment I don't see it for me. Of course, that's a growing segment, but I don't think it's for us because we do anyway a lot of different wines, and if there's coming a new product, I think they will throw me out at home. But it would be really interesting to work on that tea idea on grape juice. I see that more here because that's it's not easier to make, but with lower impact of energy.
Mm-hmm. Peter, what do you think about the packaging of fruit juices and the beverages that you make? All of your beverages tend to have the product itself on the label, and sometimes we hear comments about people saying, you know, it looks too much of a fruit juice, whereas it could be even like a more refined version, especially to fine dining restaurants. Have you heard this kind of comments from other places, and have you ever thought about making a different kind of range of your beverages?
Very interesting question, to be honest. Of course, we are thinking about quality, what's inside, and we are thinking about how it's looking as well. And we are coming a little bit too much out of the food business as well after 100x years now. But we always think that what's in the bottle, you should see it from outside as well. Maybe this is a little bit fruit-based thinking, but that's the reason why we do that. So that's why it's nearly always the fruit which is inside, then on the bottle there as well. But generally, when we started, I mean, that's not so long ago, 2007, with single varietal fruit juices. Of course, the category of fruit juices before was just mixed juices. So in Germany, we started to do single variety fruit juices as well. And then we started to produce it as well in wine bottles, because there is, I think, the beginning of the discussion, there's very good people, if you compare beer drinkers and wine drinkers, the wine drinkers, of course, are a little bit more affine to in drinking than juices out of the glass as well, and looking at the nose and things like this is very helpful. But most important to me at that time concerning packaging always was the quality is absolutely most important. Then you can take the right price to it as well. But you should never have an outside looking, or an extraordinary looking of a bottle, which has an expectation of this, if somebody buys this, and then the quality is like this, and you are disappointed about it. Then it's better to have a packaging like this. You open the bottle, you have the quality like this, and you say, wow, this bottle.
Well, with my personal opinion, the quality of your beverages definitely are all the way up here. As a wine consuming country, we're still relatively young. And often people say, especially our foreign friends say, that we are a nice nation because we're quite open-minded. We're not a wine-producing nation ourselves. But it's still interesting that we always think about these beverages, that they have to be somehow vinous. And I recently had an amazing dinner at Palace Restaurant, and I felt like all the non-alcoholic beverages that we tasted during the menu, they were really vinous, because I'm a wine drinker at a table, and I'm looking at that palate mouthfeel that you get from wine. Do you feel like this is something that it's just in our minds, as this is the only way of making food and beverage pairings, or should we look outside the box and just be able to recognize other elements as well? It's a bit complicated question, but.
Well, you're absolutely correct. It's important that the beverage is clear and looks nice, and it's not hazy or anything else. So if you pour a mixed fruit juice that doesn't look nice, it's always a mindset that it cannot be good when we're in a fine dining restaurant. But I think that the customers are getting there, and it's the same thing with the wine pairings, that you have to earn their trust, and when you have it, then you can pour whatever you like, and they will accept it.
Yeah, that's well said. There's a question from the audience.
Yes, I have a question about basically about the technology of production. And all we know in the wine world, sulfur is sometimes a big question. Yeah, sometimes people they want to have a less sulfur in the aged wines, and there's some discussion about sulfur, but also a question about sulfur and some other additives, because the fruit juices and the drinks based on fruit juices, they have some residual sugar, there's some risk of second fermentation. So, question to Fred and to Peter, what is the average amount of total sulfur in this style of beverages, or maybe some other additives goes into organize the conservants for the beverages?
To make it stable, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you use sterile filtration or pasteurization or anything like this?
You have a non-alcoholic wine here which tastes like sulfur, so could be higher. No, in fruit juice it's very, very limited. So we use close to 10 milligrams. That's it. What everything the juice get. But we're working with vitamin C to stay fresh, because otherwise you get too much oxidation. I think.
Vitamin E.
C.
C. Ascorbinsäure. And yeah, so there's not a need for a lot of sulfur. And to get it stable, of course, with CO2, it's more tricky because you have to do cold filtration and bottling. No CO2 is easy because you can do a pasteurization, but that change again the flavors. So I like it more cold bottling, cold filtration, but then you have to work carefully, of course.
Peter?
We don't use any sulfates, it's sushi too.
Yeah.
We don't use any sulfates. We use up and then when it's necessary. We use as less vitamin C as every good producer tries to use as less as possible, but we pasteurize. So, and we test, of course, whatever we produce, we test it pasteurized as well. It's a short period of pasteurization, which we have, as less pasteurization as possible. But if you have like the juices with a high acidity, then you can do it or you can try to do it in a cold version as well. As soon as you have like juices which have less acidity in there as well, I would say it's a little bit dangerous as well to do that, because then, as you know, fruit juices, for example, they are by definition, they are juices who could produce a fermentation as well. So if you have any parts in there which are not any yeast in there, then it's really dangerous that the bottle could boost as well. And yeah.
Any other questions from the audience?
Question more for the sommeliers. We often come to a situation of a customer who doesn't want to drink alcohol. Maybe they're driving or something, and they just want to drink water. Maybe they have a bad idea of non-alcoholic drinks, or they don't want like a soda or something like that. What would be the best situation to approach that?
Eli tarkoititko, että he eivät halua kokeilla? Että miten heidät saisi kokeilemaan?
Että just se, että he haluaa juoda vaan sitä vettä, että millä saisi sitten niin sitä periaatteessa alkoholittomia juomia, sitä enemmän heidät lähtöisiin kokeilemaan.
I think the one thing is just to recommend something, certain thing that you are sure that this is a perfect combination. If you are enjoying these beverages with this food, 1 + 1 is together 3. So maybe you offer for free for the first time that you must try this. This is so wonderful experience. But you have to have the certain products you recommend, and you have to know what you are selling, and after that you will succeed. But of course sometimes
You don't.
Sometimes you don't. But if you try many times, if you try 20 times, if you try 50 times, the more and more you will succeed. The more and more you will get better.
I would totally agree, and how you present the idea is really important. That you don't ask, would you like something? You ask, would you like to have this amazing Traubensaft from Austria, Kamptal, made by famous Fred Loimer, and then you're much closer than just giving, would you like something?
Maybe a good comment as well. I think this was actually very good. The restaurant where they said they have a bit of a challenge. Also for people, often it can be actually an issue of money as well. But what they actually said, that they went to the research committee, that hey, we will consider that there will be two options for this meal. Would you like to be helping us to which one you prefer?
And one would be wine and one would be...
Both non-alcoholic.
Oh, both, okay.
So that, it's kind of like involving the client to be part of the testing, and obviously you already have your opinion, your recommendation, but still involving the client kind of into the kind of game play or something like. We didn't think that these two would be an option. What would be your opinion? Which one is better choice? That could be one way of getting this. I think everybody will appreciate it if you're asking.
Yeah, true. And Ulla has been doing a lot of wine writing as well, so when do we see a non-alcoholic trial in one of the magazines in Finland, maybe trying non-alcoholic beverages and rating them?
Maybe someday. Just last week, my husband was visiting Hämeenlinna because he was having a work trip, and I noticed that there is a certain non-alcoholic Chardonnay I would like to try, and he purchased that from the Alko because we didn't have that certain white wine in Jyväskylä. So I'm looking forward to taste the little bit toasted non-alcoholic Chardonnay in this week. So
okay,
we'll see.
Good. Well, lastly, before we wrap up, is there something that you'd really like to see in this category, and where do you feel that it's heading, and how do you feel about your own self? This is something that you really support and you're really genuinely interested in, or is this just a trend that's going to pass us and then we start drinking more again? How do you feel?
I don't think it's going to go away, so it's important that you as an importer get all the samples and try, because you have even more opportunities to bring this stuff in the market, and we're really happy that it's been like a year when we started with the Van Nahmen juices, and that's one great improvement, and we should get tons of more.
No problem.
Yeah, as I said, so might be interesting thing to work on grape juice based things, maybe with teas. That could be quite interesting, I think. But we focus on high class wine, and when we changed the biodynamic, Demeter was still writing about alcohol in a bad way. So 20 years ago, the anthroposophic people saw alcohol as not the best thing, and Rudolf Steiner said, so every society need alcohol to develop, but when it's developed, they will see that they don't need alcohol anymore. Maybe we are on the beginning of that period, I don't know. But that's one of the reasons why we didn't sign a Demeter contract and found our own way, because we want to produce wine, and if possible, with a lot of taste and low alcohol.
Well, I'm a big fan generally of everybody should do what he would like to do. So I'm not the fan of telling people you need to drink non-alcoholic drinks now. Everybody should do as he would like. I think and there are happening so many things in this segment right now. It's really nice to see, and I'm looking forward to see, maybe in 3 years and 5 years, we will see some different things. Not only a tea combination to lower the sugar in there, but some other things where we don't know, like fermentation processes. I don't know what all different kinds of this, but on a non-alcoholic basis. And generally, I see it's not my personal opinion. It's not going to stop, it's going to be more, but always on a level not like 50% of the market. It's always going to be, in the gastronomy, it's going to be a small part. Now everybody's talking about non-alcoholic drinks. I think it will get normal, and it's good that it's getting normal. I'm not a big fan of, I don't know, in some restaurants you have special cards or menus for this kind of drinks, this kind of drinks. Please don't do a card of only non-alcoholic things. It's just, it's all because then you ban the people who are drinking non-alcoholic. Here you have this water card or something like this. Just be a part of drink, because it's non-alcoholic. It's just like a part. It's just like vegan, non-vegan, and other things as well. And I'm sure that if then the producers get a feedback like today, please go on, and then these information are transported in gastronomy as well, which is most important, of course, as well. You have to tell the stories to show people that if they have a bad experience, which we've just heard as well, it's not good. So you really have to take them out of there as well, as a gastronomy, to tell them a story as well, either served done or with other products. So I'm really looking for an interesting future.
Great. That's great not to categorize too much.
Yes, I think the consumption of non-alcoholic beverages is going to increase, definitely. But of course, the amount of consumers is small, but the increase is still there. And I would really like to see different kind of packaging, and also non-alcoholic wines in cans, maybe in the future, as well as normal wines. More and more in different packaging. And I would like to see that the breweries will educate us on non-alcoholic beers as well, and how to use those in food restaurants, how to use those beers with different kind of food. And because more and more we are getting flavors from different kitchens. Mm-hmm. So what about the spices and so on? And a good non-alcoholic red wine.
Great.
But I think I'm going to list these Sangiovese, and I'm going to try to mix it with some red currant juice and some other things. It's going to be wonderful.
Thank you. Well, I mean, just to wrap it up, we don't need to have a dry January, but maybe we need to sometimes think about not drinking every day, not binge drinking. Maybe sometimes taking an alternative option. I think the better and better these products become, the more happily we are feeling that we don't feel like we're making a compromise when we drink these. We actually are enjoying it, and especially with great somms like Aleksi and Ulla, I think we can really enhance the level of the customer experience in restaurants also with these kind of beverages. So thank you ever so much. Great panel. Thank you all for joining here. Thank you.